India is often described as, this incredible mosaic of diversity. It's almost a brand identity,
It is a land of hundreds of cultures, languages, ethnic groups, all supposedly living together.
supposedly. But that's the ideal. And the reality, as our sources today show, can be much more uh, complicated, much more painful.
Yeah, that's the real question, isn't it? What happens when your face or your heritage suddenly puts a huge question mark next to your own citizenship?
That is the exact tension we are diving into today. We're looking at a case that became a national flashpoint.
The story of Angel Chakma.
Exactly. His death really forced the country to look in the mirror and ask a very ugly question. Who is truly seen as an Indian?
And our mission for this deep dive is to go past the headlines. We need to understand what happened, of course, but more than that, we need to connect the dots between, everyday prejudice and actual systemic violence.
So let's start with the person himself. Who was Angel Chakma? Because this isn't a story about a political figure.
No, not at all. And that's what makes it so relatable, so tragic. He was just a 24-year-old student trying to build a life.
And he's from Tripura, right? In Northeast India.
That's right. It's a state that borders Bangladesh. And like so many young people, he'd traveled a long way from home for a better education. He was in Dehradun, in Uttarakhand.
So he's already on this journey of aspiration.
Absolutely. And you have to understand the timing, which the sources make heartbreakingly clear. He was a final year MBA student. He was literally at the finish line, and he just secured his first job placement.
Oh, that's the moment. That's the moment a family's dreams come true.
It's everything. It signals that all the hard work, all the sacrifice has paid off, and it just makes the loss so much more profound.
And there was another detail about his family, a really powerful one.
Yeah, his father served in the Border Security Force, the BSF.
So a family literally dedicated to guarding India's borders.
I mean, the irony is just staggering. Here's a young man whose family has this deep, undeniable patriotic service, pursuing the classic Indian dream.
And he's about to face violence because some people decided he didn't look like he belonged.
It's this collision of official identity and, street-level prejudice. By all accounts, he was a quiet, focused kid. He wasn't looking for trouble.
Which brings us to that night. It was early December in Dehradun. Angel was out with his younger brother, and a confrontation starts.
And the sources are very specific here. This wasn't a random fight. It didn't start over a parking spot or someone bumping into someone else. It started with words.
Verbal harassment.
Targeted verbal harassment. And the words themselves are, well, they're the weapons that start the whole thing.
So what did they say?
According to witnesses, the group of men started shouting racial slurs at them. Things like Chinese and the word chinky.
And those words, they have a very specific, very loaded meaning in India, don't they?
A huge one. It's not just a schoolyard insult. It's a term used to brand someone from the Northeast as a foreigner. It erases their Indian identity and lumps them in with a stereotype of an outsider, an other.
So you're not just being insulted, you're being told, you don't belong here.
Exactly. And for so many people from the Northeast, it's the constant background noise of their lives in other parts of the country. They hear it in classrooms, on the street, everywhere. It's a daily reminder that their face makes them a target.
And in the face of this, Angel didn't just stay silent.
No, he stood his ground. He objected.
And he said something. Something that became a rallying cry.
He did. His last reported words during that argument were, "We are Indians."
Wow. Just a simple declaration of fact.
A plea for recognition. Not an attack, not a challenge, just a statement of his identity, a constitutional right, And that simple plea was met with just brutal violence.
It escalated that quickly.
Immediately. He was attacked, beaten viciously. He sustained a very severe stab wound to his neck. The injuries were critical.
And he didn't die at the scene.
No, he fought. He was rushed to the hospital, to the ICU, and he fought for his life for over 2 weeks.
2 weeks. That's an agonizing wait for a family.
Unimaginable. He finally succumbed to his injuries on December 26.
After his death, there were arrests, right?
Yes, several men were taken into custody pretty quickly. But that's when the second part of this tragedy begins. The controversy wasn't over the assault itself, but over how the authorities described it.
The police report.
The police report. Their initial statement to the media was, well, it was explosive.
What did they say?
They claimed the attack was not racially motivated. They called it a personal dispute, a misunderstanding.
A personal dispute.
Yeah.
But the confrontation started with racial slurs. That was the trigger.
Precisely. And that's the question activists and student groups immediately ask. If you target someone based on their appearance and use racial slurs, how can the motive not be racial?
So why would the police do that? Why deny the obvious?
It comes down to a huge gap in the Indian legal system. The Indian Penal Code, the IPC, is very good at punishing an act, murder, assault. It's not really equipped to prosecute the motive, the bias.
So there's no specific law for hate crime.
Not in the way other countries define it. So for the police, it's just easier, cleaner to file it as a simple murder case. They can prove the stabbing. Proving racial intent is much harder legally.
But in doing that, they strip the crime of its entire context.
Yeah.
They deny the reality of what happened to Angel.
They do, and they deny the experience of an entire community. That one statement felt like a dismissal of decades of discrimination.
And that's what ignited the protests.
It was like a spark on dry tinder. The reaction was immediate, and it was massive. We saw candlelight vigils, student strikes, marches, not just in the Northeast, but in Delhi, Mumbai, all over the country.
And what were the slogans? What were people demanding on their signs?
The signs said things like, "Stop racism," "Justice for Angel," and the most powerful one, reflecting his last words, "We are Indians too."
We are Indians too. That word too says so much.
It's a demand for inclusion. It's saying, our claim to this nation is just as valid as yours. This wasn't just grief, it was a political statement.
And it moved beyond street protests into the political and legal arenas.
Oh, absolutely. The case got huge attention. Politicians from all parties had to condemn it. Some called it a national disgrace. They knew this wasn't just another crime statistic.
But the real push was for something more permanent, wasn't it? A change in the law.
Yes, that's the lasting legacy here. This tragedy became the catalyst for a much bigger fight. The demand to formally recognize and punish hate crimes in India.
To fill that legal gap you were talking about.
Exactly, to create a law where the bias motive is treated as a central part of the crime itself.
And how far did that push go?
All the way to the top. A petition was filed in the Supreme Court of India.
Wow.
The petition directly asked the court to mandate the government to create laws that would make racially motivated violence and even the use of racial slurs a distinct hate crime.
So this was about changing the entire legal framework. It wasn't just about getting justice for Angel's attackers.
It was about making sure the next angel was protected. The argument was that if you don't punish the hate, you're basically allowing it to continue. You're telling an entire community that the prejudice they face isn't real enough for the law to see.
Okay, let's zoom out. We've gone through the story, the aftermath, the legal fight. Let's get to the so what. Why did this one case resonate so deeply?
Because it wasn't an isolated incident. It was, as you said earlier, the violent endpoint of thousands and thousands of smaller moments.
The microaggressions.
The daily cuts. For decades, people from the Northeast have talked about this, being asked, are you really Indian? Being called names, being mocked for how they look, how they speak. Their citizenship is constantly being questioned.
And these stories, they rarely make the national news.
Almost never. They're dismissed as anecdotes. It's what you call the cycle of visibility. Nothing happens, nothing changes, the daily prejudice continues under the radar until someone dies.
And only then, in the horror of that violence, is the nation forced to pay attention.
And even then, as we saw with the police response, the first instinct is often to deflect, to deny that it's about race, to call it anything but what it is.
So Angel's case holds up a mirror to the country's claim of unity and diversity.
It asks a very uncomfortable question. Is that diversity truly celebrated? Or is it just tolerated? Tolerated as long as you don't ask for equal recognition, as long as you stay quiet.
The heartbreaking part is that he was a quiet student. He wasn't an activist. He just wanted to get his degree and start his life.
He was just trying to exist. And in the end, his simple existence and his simple plea to be seen as a fellow citizen became a national battle. It shows you how words, how prejudice can so quickly turn into a weapon.
All he wanted was to be seen as what he was, an Indian. And his final words say it all with such heartbreaking power. We are Indians.
And that's really what we need to leave our listeners with. This case pushed for the legal recognition of hate crimes, a basic concept in many countries meant to protect people. So you have to ask yourself, if the law fails to see the motive when identity is so clearly the target, what does that say about the state's promise to protect all of its citizens equally? That failure to define hate is the question that still hangs over Angel's legacy.